Hello.
What's up?
Yep. John. Let's see, Finn over there.
I didn't get an alert.
And we're
Hey, I
gonna
got
be
an alert.
building an anti-vehicle cannon, so let's get this open. John, if you'll do the
Finn,
honors.
do you have any scissors?
Not here. Don't
Can
worry.
you go get some?
Why? That's not.
We're men, we can do it.
Talk to the camera.
Finn, can you hold the hammer? Cameraman. Thank you. Okay. Scoot back a little bit. Jeez.
Do we really need scissors?
No, we do not. We don't need scissors anymore, John.
Wow, thanks.
Yep.
What?
You completely.
He's not
ruined-
saving the box.
I do. They're literally in the closet.
Well, yeah, flash.
What?
How old is this?
It's an old set.
Look, they have the old, like, stupid clone faces.
Alright. Open bag one.
Set things up for the viewers. There's a zero of them.
Yep. Hey, they'll come.
Yeah,
I know they will.
If you build it, they will come.
My loyal subscribers.
There's two people watching.
Are there
Who
actually?
the heck is
Yeah.
watching this?
One person.
Exactly. Yep.
Cal of Coes says dab.
Yeah, that would be Jesus. Or Jesus, for all those.
Who's watching?
Yeah.
Oh, he's
always
always watching.
watching.
Hey, where's the items?
Okay. Do you have it actually set up on us?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, on our like.
On like
Instead
this?
of-
Okay. Can you grab the scissors, please? And stab.
How do this?
What? You're building it without me, John.
Here, I'll build until you finish up the minifig, and then. you
How
can
about
build the-
you can build the bag one, I'll build bag two.
Well, why don't we alternate? Like, I'll build these ones, then you build the next page.
Okay. Can somebody hand me the scissors?
Why do you need scissors, dude? You can. rip
Someone
those
says
bags
that
open.
sucks.
Who?
I don't know how to do that.
What, that guy?
How kind.
No.
Well, look, I mean, they're being honest.
Hey, remember that time that we tried to do a podcast in Destiny 2?
That's what I literally just said. And you're like, oh.
Well, I guess Brain just doesn't listen to what
So I got Master Platoon. I remember when you got Security's costume.
Yeah. That was the stupidest thing ever.
Yep.
So what happened?
Oh, Finn dressed up as this guy, Master Plo Koon, and
Alright,
somehow
your turn.
won Security's costume.
This guy isn't scary.
You don't say. Yeah.
He looks pretty chill.
Yeah. Finn, you're a cameraman, work the chat.
Hey. What?
What chat?
Two people already commented.
Yeah.
What'd they say?
Finn was reading it out. Is anybody watching anymore?
Yeah, two people.
Wow.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure why.
Wow, you guys have nothing good to do.
The
It's
people
the-
watching?
Yeah.
It's the summer, what do you expect?
For them to be doing something.
Debatable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not doing anything.
Dude, we're building the anti-vehicle cannon.
No, Brayden is.
I'm gonna help.
Yeah, we're
I built the
alternating.
first part. Do you want it on the action, Finn, or are you just gonna roll the camera?
Hold on, I'm playing map, bro.
Yeah. Finn is our cinematographer.
Yeah. What are your thoughts so far, Brayden? Is it difficult?
No.
It's difficult.
Oh,
It
shoot.
isn't.
He's struggling.
Did I get this right?
I told you.
Oh, I thought I messed it up. Oh, cool. Score one for me, I guess.
Brayden's blanket shatters if you touch it.
What?
That is from Jesus.
Okay.
Please rephrase your question or statement.
What question or statement? Is that for us or?
Yeah, that's for us.
What? Did we ask something?
No,
Or state something?
I don't know. Brayden's blanket shatters if you touch it. Restate that. reword that somehow because we don't understand.
Alright, we'll
Yeah.
step you on the way.
I finished 12.
Perfect. I'll do next couple.
Okay.
His anime body pillow shatters too.
Oh,
What is this?
nothing.
No, please.
That's from
please-
Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, not read, but
If only we had multi cameras,
we do.
because then we could do yo-yo
Oh
tutorial.
No.
You better rewrap that.
I am. Oh yeah.
How on earth?
Watch this. Some of this action.
Oh, whoops.
Keep the commentary, guys. We need the content.
I was gonna say, like, how do you connect these? And I realized I put the pieces on wrong.
Yeah, as you can see, we are struggling.
Yep. Oh no.
Who, out of the three of us, who do you say has the most Lego experience? Your turn, Braden.
I think it's me.
I think it's me.
Yeah, I think it's you.
Yeah.
If
Me?
you've seen my collection, yes, dude. Haven't you been to my house?
No. Well, yeah, I have
Well,
actually
come
once. Once.
You've been in his house
I've been to your
once?
house like 20 times.
Yeah. A lot more than 20.
Well, there's more stuff to do here. Like, you have a Wii, and that's about it. Oh
Good,
my
actually.
goodness.
We should.
We should.
Like a bad.
Well, we got another comment. If you get a PC and attach multiple webcams to attach.
Just we're currently functioning off an iPad.
Yeah, so that's a no-go.
Yeah, no comment. Anyway, yeah.
That was
I
a comment,
know.
though.
Thank you. Thank you for participating in the chat.
Get down there. What? I'm the cameraman.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything though.
Yeah, I know.
You need to make good talk.
Hey, what's the story
Good
behind
talk.
that shirt, John?
What, the shirt I'm wearing? Oh, yes.
Why don't you show it off
or something like
every
that.
single time?
Yeah,
4
it
years,
used
yeah.
to just be a commercial purpose. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so
story
it's an
time is
amazing
done.
story.
Yep.
And now, Braden, why don't you tell us the story of life?
You know.
So, nothing.
Whoa.
Oh, zing!
Okay, your internet is bad, LMAO. Yeah, it is.
Oh, is it lagging?
Probably.
Dude, it's probably like.
Oh, now he left.
Why do you think?
Do we still have one viewer?
No,
We have nobody?
no.
Why don't we just end the live stream?
No,
No.
we have to keep it up until we finish it.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to be archived on my channel for people to go back
Yeah.
and watch. So we need to keep talking.
If it uploads really laggily, though, would.
Laggily?
Yeah, that's a word.
No, it's because of Finn's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Thanks, Finn.
Well, we already knew that.
You up, son? Here's some of
I'm
the
surprised
pieces.
Reese isn't watching.
Okay, I guess I'll just keep it.
Or Yosh. Yosh is one of my subscribers.
Dude, listen, most people don't drop everything when they have a new live stream.
Okay,
I know
so-
I flip and don't.
Whoops.
Do you...
What?
Do you...
No, I didn't end it, but I put an effect bubbles.
Why?
You can put effects?
Yeah.
Oh my, dude,
Dance party?
no.
Dude,
Turn that off.
Where is it?
Okay, for the whole stream now.
You're the effects guy. You can play
Okay.
effects whenever you want to. But don't spam them.
You ready, son?
I don't want to put a seizure warning. Okay, Finn, only do effects when we say so.
Alright, here's some of the pieces you can want.
Oh, thanks, John.
You're welcome, Braden.
You really know how to help a brother out. Brother. Oh, yeah, bro. Well, now you're just taking a fun out of it.
Alright, then we'll stop.
Stop talking.
I'll stop talking, yes.
No. So, new Slender movie coming out.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited.
Are you gonna come with us?
I
Please.
probably won't.
John.
John, you gotta come.
Oh, I thought we weren't actually gonna go.
No, I'm doing it.
Well, what time, Brendan?
I don't know.
Because it can't be like
There you go.
he has to go, like to the thing at 12:30.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to
Okay.
that, the youth group thing. Are you gonna come?
There's a youth group thing?
Yeah, dude. Oh, you should come.
I never got a message.
What? Oh, it's because she sent out. I'll tell you about it later. Never mind.
It's in a Facebook group chat.
No, please, just tell me about it now. We have nothing else to do.
Okay.
No, we don't want to tell all the.
No, we don't want to tell people because
just-
they might show up and murder
Oh, yeah.
someone.
Well, they don't know what
Yes,
it
they
is.
do.
I'm sure they don't.
I really don't know why we're live streaming this. It's not like that interesting.
It is. Is that interesting?
It's really not. You want to start on that step?
Yeah, I'm. Well, it's not interesting if you don't talk. John, you're the star of the show.
No, I'm not. All right. Well, we gotta have some clever commentary running. So, Finn, why don't you talk for us?
Yeah, just spout. Oh, you can read the Unwanteds while we're
Yes, dude.
No.
Yes. Read it out loud.
audiobooks.
Dude.
Did I read Superstore anyways?
All right. Here, why don't you go get it for me and I'll read it out loud. Where is it?
It's probably still out there.
I'll go get
Finn, what are you doing? Are you just messing with stuff?
No.
Have you stopped the live stream?
No. Still going.
Good.
11 minutes.
Wow, time really flies by. So we are almost to phase 2 of our anti-air cannon. Anti-vehicle cannon.
Is it?
Leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel.
Leave a dislike.
No, that's on my
All right.
channel.
Yeah.
Oh. Is anybody even watching? Yeah, there's nobody on right now.
Also, check out John's channel.
I don't post anything on my channel.
Yeah,
Either one.
that's the point.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true.
Alright, so I'm going to be reading a little bit of
Did it not want me to
The Unwanteds. It's an amazing book, not...
Whoa.
Okay,
Shots
listen for
fired.
yourself. Alright, let's hear what
Are
you're
you
saying
gonna read from the
about...
beginning or where you are?
I'll read from the beginning, why not?
Okay.
Chapter 1. The Purge. You guys can't laugh, I'm not going to read it. There was a hint of wind coming over the top of the stone walls, and through the barbed wire sky on the day Alexander Stowe was to be purged. Alex waited in the dusty commons of Quill and felt the light breeze cooling stood beside him,
Okay.
their parents behind. You see what I say about the writing? Alright, so
It's not that
sidebar.
bad.
It's pretty.
It's
bad.
pretty
It's pretty bad.
Alright,
What?
continuing the story. And all around, the entire community of Quill watched and waited, the bland looks of sleeping fish on their faces. Mr. Stowe
Do fish
pressed his
sleep?
fingers hard into Alex's
Cameraman, Google.
What?
Do fish sleep?
Yes.
Yeah, Google it.
I think that, okay, so fish sleep with their eyes open, so the very good analogy that the author's making here is that
They're
a
just staring
sleeping
off into
fish
space.
has no expression because it's not actively
Well, they have good writing.
So it should
Yeah,
have said
when you
the
explain it.
expression on Finn's face.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Anyways, alright. Mr. Stowe pressed his fingers hard into Alex's
Can you
back.
get these pieces?
Would you be
unacted?
quiet?
Just
what
take
the
them
hell?
out.
What are you doing? A final poke in the kidneys. A last goodbye.
What?
Alex is not shut up. I'm trying to read. Or a
Really?
warning not to run. Alex glanced at Aaron, whose face showed the teeniest emotion. Scared, was it? Or sad?
Or satisfied?
Alex didn't know. The high priest Justine, her long
High priest?
Shut.
Yeah.
Okay, if you
What is
okay,
she
listen.
high on?
You can make comments at the end of each paragraph.
How do we know in the paragraph ends?
I'll pause and then you can.
John, can you
say
switch
something.
off reading with Finn so you can disconnect that piece?
Yeah, here, try.
Or you can.
Here,
I
give
can
it to
read
me.
while I do it.
Yeah, you can
give it
read
to
while
me.
you
Give
do
me
it.
the book. We'll
I
switch.
literally
We'll
just-
switch every page.
Oh, you did it.
How about
Thank
you play some of the characters?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let me get my other book.
Yeah,
oh,
I-
dude, you oh, yes. Go get it. Go get it. I'll keep reading because no one says anything for a while. The high priest Justine, her long white hair undisturbed despite the breeze, rose to her full height and observed the silent crowd. She began without introduction or ado, for a purge was neither exciting nor boring. It just was, as many things just were in Quill. There were nearly 50 13-year-olds this year. The people of Quill waited to hear which of these teenagers had been marked as wanted or necessary, and, by process of elimination, which of them remained to be purged. Alex scanned the group and their families around the giant half circle of the
I'm
amphitheater. Okay, good. He knew some of them, not all. Alex's mind wandered as the high priest Justine announced first the names of the wanteds, and he startled only slightly as the high priest spoke Aaron's name.
What page?
Aaron, too, who'd had nothing to worry about, sighed anyway in relief when he was among the 15 names called. The necessaries were next, 13 names were read. Alexander Stowe was not one of them either. Even though Alex knew that he was unwanted, he had known ever since his parents had told him over breakfast when he was 10, the knowledge and 3 years of preparation weren't enough to stop the sweat that prickled his
Wait, so
armpits
his
now.
parents told him that he was unwanted?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
parents, I guess.
That kind of sucks.
No, yeah, that's how all of them are.
It was okay. So wait,
Wow.
if they're twins, why is one of them like worse than the other? Does it explain that later?
Okay, does every pair of twins have the same personality?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Shut
It
Cameraman,
was,
what are the strats?
it was down to a mere formality, unless there was a surprise, which there sometimes was, but it didn't
No one
matter.
here.
Put some bubbles.
Everyone stood motionless until the final 20 names were called. Among the unwanted, Alexander Stowe.
No,
Alex
that's really
didn't
good.
move, though his heart fell like a comet block into his gut. He stared straight ahead as he'd seen the other unwanted do in past years. His lip quavered for a moment, but he fought to still it. When the governors came over to him, he put his arms out for them to shackle with rusty iron bands. He made his eyes icy cool before he glanced over his shoulder at his parents, who remained unemotional. His father nodded slightly.
Was Smiley?
And finally took his finger out of Alex's back after the shackles were secure. That was a minor relief, but what did it matter now? Aaron sniffed once quietly, catching Alex's attention in the silent amphitheater. The identical boys held a glance for a moment. Something like a jolt of energy passed between them, and then it was gone.
Goodbye.
Aaron whispered.
Are you gonna be all the characters?
Yeah.
Yes, this is perfect. Alex swallowed hard,
Okay, that's half bubbles.
held the stare a second
Where's
more
that on the whole time?
as the governors tugged at him to follow, and then broke the connection and went with the governors to the waiting bus that would take him to his death. Talk about a run-on sentence.
Oh, he gets killed?
Yes,
End of story.
the book is about Aaron.
No, Alex. Well,
Aaron-
both of them.
Aaron Yeager?
Joking. Okay.
Aaron
No spoilers yet. Chapter 2.
That's chapter 1?
Yeah.
Want.
It's really crappy on.
That set up the whole story.
Aaron Stowe, the wanted,
That should be a
watched his
prologue.
brother Alex board the
No, it's
rusty
not.
box of a bus, and then he turned his eyes to formidable high priest Justine.
High priority targets.
She retreated to her aged jeep-like vehicle, flanked by 2 guards and her secretary, and they began the drive back up the dusty hill of the palace, leaving a trail of gray smoke and a sharp odor to linger in the heavy air. The rest of Quill slowly dispersed on foot. Murmurs surfaced and drifted through the crowd. Not about the purge, of course. That was already a cloudy memory for some. Instead, they spoke of their plans for the rest of the day, for the day of the purge was Quill's only holiday each year. All of the wanteds and most of the necessaries, except those who tended to the farm animals, were free to do as they pleased for the rest of it. Aaron knew what he would be doing. He turned to his mother and father and said with a decisive air,
All set then?
Mrs. Stowe nodded primly, and the 3 of them followed the crowd down the dusty path that led to Quadrant 4, where they lived.
We'll finish making your uniform and get your things packed for university.
She said. What are you doing? Okay, back up. That was the point. You like deepened your voice for the mom. What the heck? Okay, alright.
No, that's the high priestess.
No, it's the mom, you idiot. Okay, Mrs. Stowe nodded primly, and the 3 of them followed the crowd down the dusty path that led to Quadrant 4, where they lived.
We'll finish making your uniform.
Okay, do that again.
Uniform and get your things packed for university.
She said.
Cut your hair too.
Oh my gosh.
And we lost John.
Oh
I steal his bow.
I have to go get my inhaler soon. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. I did. She looked at Mr. Stowe and asked,
I don't suppose we'll get the morning boys' clothes and shoes back, will we?
Mr. Snow Stowe, who had once been
Jon
quite
Snow.
handsome, but now had curled by a bit
But now
from years of backbreaking work as a barrier, shook his head.
No.
Mrs. Stowe said,
What?
"It's more dialogue, say it.
What? No.
It's your line."
There's no dialogue.
Yes, there is.
Well, that's
No.
nice.
Well, that's dialogue.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's you. You say it.
Oh, that's
It's
poor.
the
Well,
lady.
that's a waste.
It's the mom.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
Well, that was a waste.
Keep going, dude.
Aaron could use them, the shoes at least. Wish I thought to take them before he left. I wouldn't want to wear them.
Aaron said, and then he pinched his lips together before he said more. Still, his mother narrowed her eyes and spoke softly, almost fearfully.
You'll do well to forget about him.
Aaron kept silent for a moment, thinking.
You're right.
He said finally,
Dude, this
It won't
dialogue.
happen again. See to it.
said Mr. Goodness.
See to it.
Said Mr. Stowe. My bookmark fell out.
Wow, you're really breaking.
Anyways, after
My
15
immersion.
minutes, they had reached Quadrant 4, a residential square mile of tiny identical houses planted closely together like rows of sweet corn. Each house the color of the dry, cracked desert that
Cracked.
surrounded it. Cracked. The crowd of people split up now and weaved their way between the structures until they reached their own individual homes. Aaron and his parents nodded politely to their neighbors as they walked along. When Aaron saw a familiar couple around the same age as his parents walking alone, he touched his mother's sleeve.
Whoa.
How odd.
He said,
Isn't Mr. Ranger a milker?
What is he milking?
Yes.
she said.
Like,
Why is he out and about instead of doing his job?
Aaron's eyes narrowed.
He must have been given the day off this year because of the unwanted daughter. Did they know in advance, I wonder?
She turned to Mr. Stowe.
Not that I heard. That's a blow.
Mr. Stowe said. He yawned as they neared their house, number 5443. And then he said,
They'll be cut off from reproducing now.
what?
This was their second offense.
What?
Mr. Stowe wrinkled his nose.
They'll be completely ridiculed by the wanted for poor production.
Mrs. Stowe gave her husband a disapproving glance.
You'll be careful what you say.
She snapped.
You
Lest
man or
you
son?
forget, we don't want it in our presence now.
Aaron raised his chin slightly as his parents stood aside at the front door, allowing the boy to enter before them for the first time.
Yes. Be careful, Father,
Aaron said coolly.
or I'll have to report your insubordination for a comment like that.
Aaron took on a dignified stride as he made his way through the tiny kitchen to the even tinier bedroom
This guy's a
that
punk.
he no longer had to share.
Wow. I remember back when these guns were still being
What
manufactured.
your thoughts,
Yeah, you might
Drew?
as well if it's
Hey,
like.
Finn, can you open that window and just get some airflow?
Hey, Brent, can you actually do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, your
How,
thoughts too.
how does one open a window?
Oh boy. Just push up there. No. You have to push up. Then close the. That's fine. It doesn't matter how. No. And then close the blind. The blind. Whatever. Wrong way. Wrong way. Great quality.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Can you?
Oh, I see.
Do you?
Oh my goodness.
Season
All the way down.
So
All the way.
if it's in parentheses,
Okay.
or not parentheses, if it's in italics, then read.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay. Where are we?
It's
Okay.
true.
It's true.
He thought.
Enough mourning. Alex has likely been eliminated by now.
The twinge in his gut was soon dulled by thoughts of now secure future and a tiny surge of power. He was Aaron Stowe, the wanted, and he had a lot more power to prove than most, having been born of two necessaries, not to mention overcoming the stigma of a worthless twin brother. It was, Aaron knew, a huge accomplishment to have made it to the top like this. He began to pack his suitcase, a satisfied feeling growing inside him, for tonight would be his last night living with his necessary parents. Tomorrow he would go to university to be with the others of his elevated staff.
So does the nobility go wanteds, necessaries, and unwanteds? What's the difference
I'll be right
between necessaries and wanteds?
Well,
The difference between you and Ben.
Which one's necessary? Which one's wanted?
Well, you are Paco Horn. Yeah, I think you actually might be unwanted.
Kill me now, I guess.
No, necessaries are like, you have to. Like, it's like those shitty jobs.
Oh, so custodian.
Yeah.
Not to be mean to any custodians out there.
You actually need that?
it certainly is gonna help, I hope, because I can't breathe that well.
Do we have anybody watching?
No.
We're the
Sweet.
unwanted soul. You're gonna have to change the title when it finishes.
Yeah.
To, and unwanted live read.
Yeah. Let's read Unwanted's new book.
This next part's great.
Are you, well, yeah,
Chapter 3.
That's chapter 2?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They're really short, dude.
Yeah, it's really nice actually.
How many chapters?
Oh,
A freaking lot.
Yeah.
There's like 50.
That's
No,
not a
more
lot.
than that.
Let me see. No, there's not 50. There's something like 40, I think. It doesn't. They don't number them for some silly reason, which is rather silly.
How's
Anyways, Chapter 3, The Death Farm. No one spoke during the 15-minute bus ride to the Death Farm. It was stifling hot.
stifling?
Flies buzzed and darted at the closed windows, unable to escape. When Alex pulled out of his deep daze, he
Whoa.
wiped the sweat off his forehead with his upper arm
Deep
and looked around the bus.
bus.
In front of Alex, connected to him by a long chain
How
over the
long?
high back front seat, was his neighbor and friend, Megan Ranger.
Oh!
Wipe the sweat off his forehead.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a shock
How
to see
hot?
her in this.
How old are these people?
Oh, like
nuts,
12?
no better,
I'm pretty sure they're like 12.
yeah.
Never mind.
She had only one infraction as far as he knew, but it was a double. Singing and dancing. Alex had
What?
witnessed it, but it wasn't he who had reported her. She had a pretty voice, too. But Alex was not permitted to think about that. Despite the heat, Megan's face was white as the moon. Across the bus aisle was Sandy Burkesh, who was well known to Alex, but not necessarily well liked by him. Alex was surprised to see him here too, since the boy had privately boasted to Alex and Aaron only last week that he was going to be in the quilletary.
The quilletary.
Is that like the military for quill?
Yeah.
I wonder.
Sam Heed was obviously fighting tears and glared furiously when Alex's eyes landed on him.
What are you looking at?
Pull.
Sam Heed said, but one of the younger governors gave Sam Heed a warning look. Unwanteds were not allowed to speak. Their last words had already been uttered before the purge. Alex dropped his eyes and took in a few breaths, vowing silently not to look at Sam Heed again until, well, ever. Instead, he turned his gaze to the seat behind his own, not having noted in the shock of it all who was attached to his other arm. He nearly had to stand in order to see over the high seat back to where the chain led, but he didn't, since the governors were watching. All he could see was the straight jet black hair and big watery blue eyes of someone he was sure had to be a girl, but a tiny
Oh,
girl
it's one of these
13,
stories.
he thought. They're 13 apparently, Finn.
Sorry.
She didn't turn away. Instead, she held his gaze, blinking away her tears only once before the long moment.
This is 50 Shades of Grey.
or during the shut up.
With 13-year-olds, oh boy.
Dude.
Okay, stop. Her eyes were deep and soulful, with wet black lashes all clumped together from crying.
Who wrote this
After a
book?
moment, Alex, what?
Lisa McMahon.
Oh.
Lisa McWoman, am I right? After a moment,
No, you're
Alex
right.
attempted a half smile. He doubted that she could see his mouth if he couldn't see hers, but her eyes crinkled the teeniest bit in response, and for some reason, it made Alex feel just a little bit good.
Why?
There was no one else on the rickety old bus that Alex knew. He thought for a moment about being here alone with the governors, and for some selfish reason he couldn't quite explain, he felt a rush of something glad, knowing Megan and the others were there with him. That he wasn't the only unwanted in the entire land of Quill. The bus chugged past the nursery where all of Quill's trees stood, past the cattle ranch on their way out of town, and along the stark, dingy gray south wall of Quill for several minutes before the equally bland houses disappeared and the land grew untended and desolate. Alex's stomach churned when the driver barked and the
Brakes.
braked and
Are
the
you
bus
okay?
slowly groaned to a stop in front of the black, solid iron gates of what the people of Quill called the Death Farm. None but
Creative.
the High Priest Justine and the governors had ever been inside the gates and returned alive, and they didn't speak of it. Only the people of Quill, in hushed voices, would talk about it now and then and speculate about how long you might be held there before the Eliminators disposed of you. And just how did they do it? Was it painful? Did they sedate you before tossing you into the great lake of boiling oil? Alex tried hard not to think of these things, but the harder he tried, the more he thought of them. And so it was almost with relief that he
Quality
heard the
writing.
bus door creak open and the governors tell all the unwanted to stand and disembark. There was a distinct smell, pungent, when the children walked off the bus and gathered along the black gate that led to the farm. It was an uncommon odor, different from the fried smells that came from the Quilletary vehicles. Alex assumed it was burning oil wafting from the nearby lake. He had never been this close to it before, since no one was allowed near it. No one could even see the lake because the towering cement block walls that surrounded the land reached all the way up to the barbed wire ceiling, 40 feet above. No one, that is, except the unwanteds. Alex glanced at the black-haired, blue-eyed girl next to him. The protective barbed wire ceiling that crisscrossed and covered the entire land of Quill made a shadow box on her face, capturing a tear. She shook silently. She was not 13, Alex decided. In a brave moment with nothing to lose, he whispered.
I'm Alex. It'll go quickly.
He wasn't sure why he said that. It was the only comforting thing he could think of. She blinked and turned her face up at him, making the shadow boxes race across her face like they did across everything, everywhere.
Lainey.
She whispered back and shook her head.
And no, it won't.
Dun dun dun.
Alex didn't know what to say. He stood at attention as a governor took a key from a string
Has
around
she
her
been
neck
slaughtered?
and unlocked the gate.
Summon the Eliminators.
The woman said. Another governor obliged by pounding on the gate. When the enormous gate creaked open, the governors stepped away and began boarding the bus again. Lainey watched them go, tears streaming down her face.
Goodbye, Father.
She said as a slightly grayed-haired man boarded. The senior governor paused in the doorway for a split second and then, perhaps heavily, continued up the steps without looking back. He took a seat on the opposite side of the bus. Lainey turned away and roughly whisked the tears from her cheeks. The bus drove off as the giant black iron door to the Death Farm widened enough for the chained children to enter single file. Inside were 4 enormous Eliminators robed in black. Their heads were covered in cloth, but their
Dementors.
beady red eyes pierced into the already frightened souls of the children.
This is not an ASMR channel.
Oh my goodness. It'll go quickly. Inside, wait, I already read that. Lainey now appeared to be the only calm one. She held her head high as the long chain of children walked inside.
What are they?
Megan gasped and reached awkwardly for Alex's hand.
Whoa.
Alex grasped Megan's hand and gave it a frightened squeeze.
Whoa.
I don't know.
He whispered. He felt like his chest was going to collapse. Breathing in and out slowly, Alex closed his eyes for a moment and shivered as the gate groaned and closed with a loud clang, the lock clicking automatically on the other side, separating them from Quill forever. The Eliminators took the ends of the chains and trudged slowly, the children following. They were in a small cement yard. A gray stone building stood before them, and a steaming black boiling lake lay beyond it. Alex shuddered.
That's where they do it to us.
The oily stench seemed to grow stronger as they shuffled across broken cement, past bundles of burned-looking weeds, toward the building. It was more desolate than the most wasted section of Quill. Even the sky was clouded and gray here, although there was no barbed wire, just open sky. None of them had ever seen an uninterrupted sky before. Everything was eerie silent, but from the clanking of the chains and the scuffling of shoes as the unwanteds moved forward. The seconds felt like hours. When the Eliminators stopped walking and turned their eyes to the sky, Alex followed their gaze. The other children looked up too. From the sky over the boiling black lake, a large bird, or something, slowly approached. The Eliminators seemed to be waiting for it, and they stood huge, hulking, silent, as a four-legged winged creature landed with an ominous thud directly in front of them.
It's the thing on the front cover.
No way. I guess we could read one more chapter. Alright, so
Oh,
Finn, you have to do a
yes.
really weird voice for the character that I played in the video. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the Grandmaster
No.
who gives away Quill.
No.
That's in the second book.
Yeah, come on.
Chapter 4, Elimination. The creature
Incineration?
was an extraordinarily beautiful, yet frightening tortoise, with long wings that were covered with glistening white feathers.
Did you just say
tipped in
tortoise?
black. Yes,
Yes.
I did. The
What?
mosaic-shelled beast stood on all four legs, stretched out its neck to view its eyes.
Who would like cheese?
What kind of
We-
cheese?
We have cheddar and hot pepper jack.
Hot pepper jack, please.
Same here.
I'll have to.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As we
Lady
were.
thought that she would like cheddar too.
Oh.
Let's see.
What, that wasn't in the
And
book?
moving
Yeah.
on all fours.
You're breaking my.
Was
what?
more than half as tall as the smallest child, Lady. The spectacular creature bobbed its head to the Eliminators, and then it looked each unwanted in the eye. In turn, each dropped his gaze and instinctively drew back as far as his chains would allow. After a few moments, the tortoise appeared satisfied. When it spoke, to the utter shock of the children, it was in a deep, agonizingly slow voice.
Welcome.
The tortoise said, low and grim, and then the word caused a chill to run up Alex's spine.
We've been
It paused for a breath.
Expecting you.
expecting you.
Dude, I'm psychic.
Samheed, the glaring boy from the bus, who had been silent all this time, muttered an oath under his breath and raised his fist, ready to fight. But Alex and the others were fearfully mesmerized by the odd creature that stood before them. What was this thing? Was it going to attack? What did it have to do with this decrepit farm
Holy
that
cow.
contained nothing but the smell of death? They watched the tortoise, almost afraid to look at its grim face, but not quite able to look away either. The tortoise blinked a long, slow blink. Craning its long neck to look behind it, it lifted its round front legs and held it next to its mouth, as it took up its words.
Marcus,
It called out its slow, grim voice.
it's time. What in the name of Quill is it doing?
Alex wondered. A moment later, a tall, thin figure emerged from the gray building and lifted his hand. All at once, Alex felt dizzy as the space around him seemed to swirl, the oily lake whirling with the gray building and the wall behind them, until everything was spinning a spinning charcoal haze.
He blinked rapidly and wondered if he and all the children had already been eliminated, if it was over. Nothing on his body hurt, yet the charcoal blur of everything around him now faded, softened, cooled to white, and then grew steadily brighter, nearly blinding him. There was nothing at all like Alex expected to feel when immersed in the great lake of boiling oil. Megan, who could not help herself, cried out,
What's happening?
Alex squeezed her fingers, more to assure himself than her that they were still together. He sucked in a breath but couldn't answer. Another moment later, the white melted and the color emerged. The small, desolate lot had transformed into a huge world, so full of color,
Huge.
Alex could hardly see. The sun shone in a
Cerulean?
Yeah.
cerulean sky.
Cerulean.
The cement turned to a lush carpet of grass, and water fountains emerged from the earth.
You're a lush carpet of... Oh, fuck. Never mind.
Wow, great. 1,000 trees sprouted and grew to full height, scattered far and wide. The boiling lakes... The boiling lake softened into a calm sea of blues and greens, and the single gray building
I like
expanded
blues.
into an enormous, sprawling fieldstone mansion. The gnarled weeds at the children's feet wavered and
Gnarled
transformed
weed.
into wide-eyed animals, both common and fantastic. Even the Eliminators transformed. Their black cloth coverings disappeared, and all four grew even taller, with animal-like heads and sleek long necks that melted into huge, stout, strong bodies,
Are they
like
endowed
the
with
unwanted
magic?
had never seen. The newly transformed Eliminators were covered in a fine layer of shimmering black hair that reflected the sunlight, and their previously frightening red eyes grew kind and intelligent, a rich amber brown. As the unwanteds gawked, the shackles on their arms unbuckled and fell to the ground. They took in a collective odd breath and rubbed their sore wrists, and checked to see if the others were all still with them. The tall, thin figure that emerged from the gray building, now mansion, was a man dressed in a flowering, multicolored robe.
Oh, this dude.
He strolled towards them. A fluffy shock of white hair stood up on
Is
his
this
head, as if he had just been struck by lightning.
Greetings, friends.
Said the man, his voice warm and clear, pealed like a pleasant-sounding bell. He opened his arms wide.
I am Marcus today. Welcome to Arteme.
He paused, touching a finger to his lips, and then he smiled brightly.
Tell me, children, how does it feel to be eliminated? Okay, I think that's good for today.
Chapter 5. That's it. Woo!
Brandon, I think we're
Rain's
gonna
almost
have to put a pause.
Mr. Today in Arteme. Oh, my foot fell asleep.
We were gonna say, oh, foot.
Brandon,
Huh?
stop.
Hey,
Stop.
Finn, check and see if anyone's watching. No, we should just finish this build.
Yes, let me
Are
finish
you
the
doing
blue.
another chapter?
Yeah, so let's do one more chapter and Braden finish it by the end.
Okay, no one's watching.
Oh well, we can watch it later.
It's almost an hour.
Oh, are you serious?
Good.
Yeah, it's 40. It's 45
What the heck have we
minutes.
been doing all this time?
Reading the book.
Oh yeah, we're 22 pages in. Alright, let's read one more chapter.
Pretty sad.
Chapter 5, Mr. Today. It was as if Alex
Mr.
and the
Day.
others were mute.
Mr. Today.
And indeed, the colors of this magical place alone
What are you
would have been enough to shock any Quillian, for Quill was a bland world, whose brightest color is the green of the leafy trees in the nursery. In
Nursery?
Quill, yes. How would you prefer I say it?
Nursery.
Listen, sir. In Quail, ale the trays were confined to one place,
Boy!
so that no one would get notions about introducing such a bright colour into their housing
Okay,
quarters.
stop.
But here in Automaze, but here in Arteme, all of the colors felt warm, from the deep
What does that
foresty
mean?
greens of plants to the soothing blues of the sky and sea. The strand of beach was not a dingy gray like the cement walls around Quill. It was a clean and white, with thin bits of silver and gold sparkling like the sunshine.
Silver and a gold? A singular gold?
I just added that in. Yeah, it says silver and gold.
We're gonna be ready in just a couple minutes. So
Okay.
Can you guys clean up the Yahtzee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Get your drinks ready?
Okay. Let's see. Do you think we can finish this chapter? There's 6 pages.
No.
Alright, we'll have to go to a good stopping place. I know a good place to stop.
Oh dear.
A cool breeze whisked away the odor of burning oil from the children's noses and replaced it with the musky fragrance of the sea and the woods. The children breathed the wonderful scent, hastening at first at its strangeness and then nearly gulping it in, for several of them had been holding their breath for quite some time. Not one of the unwanteds could even look around and ask,
Is this a joke?
because it was. The end.
And they
Okay.
died.
Okay,
Alright, well,
next
that's a good place to stop.
So we're coming up here. We're coming up at the end of the bill here.
Okay.
Wait, why don't you finish? No, finish up the bill. We'll wait.
Yeah.
Clean up the Yahtzee.
Okay.
We gotta.
So I no longer have any people in here with me. Thanks for tuning into the stream, guys. Oh, it's been great. I know I'm gonna definitely rewatch this for hours on end. Let's see. So, we've gotten to this point so far. It's great. Okay. Huh. Oh, hey guys, welcome back.
You almost finished, son?
Almost.
Where are we at? Where are we at in the build?
Messing up. Is this just
Come on, Brady.
Oh
we gotta
yeah,
finish
okay.
quickly.
Quiet, John. Okay. We are almost finished with the build here.
Alright.
Alright.
Get started on this next part here. Where's that piece?
Alright, do you want to build it? Here's this.
Okay, yeah, pass me. The action.
Hey, we have a viewer.
Do we actually?
No.
Oh.
Troll. Good joke there.
Yeah, real funny joke.
How's it? Wait, where does this go?
Right there.
What do we do?
Watch.
There's so many instructions left, but like it looks like it's almost done. Alright, skip this.
Hey!
Dude, we don't need that. It's just telling us to put it in. There's really only one size here right now. One size fits all.
Do we need two? No, we don't.
One of these on. Do we have another of these?
Yeah, right here. Here, dog. We need barrels. Wow.
Barely believe it. Why not?
Because it's bad.
So
I'm
it's
glad
a
we-
live stream, am I right?
I'm glad we got that on tape. Tape?
Wait, why are you using
Are
two
you-
different sizes? Did it say to do that?
I guess we only. So that makes sense.
Brayden.
I thought I messed it up.
Here, you fix that while I keep it ahead. Dude, you're the one who's had this
Can you
sitting in your
stop
dorm closet
messing
for
around
20
with
years.
my. Yeah, seriously.
What are you talking about?
Stop messing up the stream.
I was just raving, bro.
I don't want your ratings on my stream. That looks terrible.
Ravenclaw.
No, Hufflepuff. Yeah, who's Hufflepuff?
Wait, what the heck?
That's all about that. Yeah. Wait. Gryffindor's where it's next one.
Are you Gryffindor?
How do you even find out that?
Wait, what are you,
Online.
Bryn?
Yeah, we'll take that.
What are you?
I'll have to do that.
What are you, Bryn?
I'm a Gryffindor.
Ravenclaw.
Yeah, I'm Gryffindor.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
What are you?
Put that action on there. I haven't
Oh,
done
John
it
did.
before.
I'm Hufflepuff.
Of course you are.
I'd be probably slithering.
Oh, it's just a droid to
That'd
go.
be
Do we
hilarious.
want to build it?
Sure, finish it. It's almost done, dude.
Just finish the build.
That way we can review it too.
Oh, you know what's coming next?
No.
Finn, are you messing around with
No, I'm
this?
not. I'm not.
What?
So yeah, we're gonna have to do a follow-up video about the review.
Who should I send this to, Brandon?
Send what to?
The live stream.
Oh, you can send the link?
Yeah.
Send it Dom.
Okay.
He should have gotten a notification. I don't know why he's neglecting me.
I know why. I'm just kidding.
This is not thin.
Wait, where's it, Okay, those two at the front.
You already messed it up.
You can go ahead and flip the page if you want.
Oh, you already have the guns?
Yeah.
These guys clearly don't know what they're doing.
Dude.
Yeah, we do!
I've been a Lego fan for about 2 years now.
That'd be really sad.
It's been, wait.
What year is it?
It's
1985?
12 years actually. 1985, what? That was
What?
the year I was born.
Whoa!
Oh boy, there's a new
Wait,
revelation.
what are these? What the? Did you leave these off something?
No. John.
Oh. Did you leave this off something, Brandon? I think you did.
Probably. Oh, yeah. Well, actually, you built this piece, John. You built that cannon.
What?
Uh-oh.
You got extra pieces. Alright.
Wait!
Hurry, he said, pretend to be like Gordon. Did they really give you an extra one of these?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Pretty sick.
Usually they don't give you extra pieces that are like that size.
Okay!
Alright, boys, it's done. Here's the set for all your viewing pleasure.
Yeah, and story time too.
So yeah, that was great, wasn't it? Special thanks to Lisa McMillan for writing that.
It's McMahon, not McLellan.
I said McMallion because I can't see it from here.
Here we go, guys. This is the final.
Doesn't look.
There's one person watching.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Who the heck?
Sweet! Thank you for tuning in. We finished the build.
thank
Is this Dom?
You missed all the story time.
Oh, he left.
Hey, put it
They
in.
left.
Put it in.
They left.
Put it in. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, like and subscribe and give me your money.